Hello, hello. Hope you're having a great day. Today, we are talking about the hidden opportunities to notice when failing in your business. Yes, there are opportunities everywhere, including there. So, I am excited to be talking about this today. Yeah, we're going to be talking about something that happens to everyone, failure, right? How to deal with it, how to stop it from paralyzing you. Okay, this is the inevitable, especially if you're venturing into the unknown. Like, how do you overcome your past results or your failures and believe in yourself again? And the key here is to change something in your approach because if you do the same thing over and over again, you cannot expect to get a different result. Right. So if you are an entrepreneur that is feeling stuck or struggling or feeling like you're failing in your business, maybe those thoughts are creeping in like, what's wrong with me? Why is this not working? Even though you're an expert in something, or maybe you're a coach, maybe you're a therapist, but you have this expertise in something, and a service, right? A service that you offer others and that can help others, then pay close attention because this is what you need to notice. Notice when you're failing. Notice when you're feeling like you're failing. But if you're stuck, if you're feeling frustrated, if you're feeling like you're throwing a bunch of stuff up on the wall to see what sticks and you're not getting the results that you're wanting, then pay close attention because we're going to dive in. And if you're here with me live, go ahead and put hashtag live. And if you're here with me watching the replay, then go ahead and put hashtag replay. Hi, Peggy. How's it going? Welcome, welcome. And cool. I am clear. Thanks, everybody. Glad you can hear me. Glad you can see me. Sometimes we have technical difficulties. So I'm glad you're here today. And this is going to be a good one. So one of the great things about, and yeah, feel free to say hi if you're here with me. I'm kind of like going back and forth. Oh, help live. Awesome. I'm here, to help. I've got great information on these things every Thursday at 3 p.m. So join us here live every Thursday, 3 p.m. Pacific time, that is. Cool. So let's dive in. So one of the great things about failing is the opportunity to process the experience and realize that at the end of the day, you're still here and you're okay. Right? It might not be feeling good at the moment, but the truth of the matter is you have another chance to go at it again and do better. Do better again, right? You have this experience to look back on and learn from. And the greatest hindrance to success is not really the failure, it's the fear of failure that could be stopping you. Okay. If you're not doing anything, that's worse than failing. The fear of, it's just like having that fear it's just responsible for so many unfulfilled dreams and wasted talents, right? If you just don't go for it, you're never going to know. Like you just got to put yourself out there and you got to take that chance instead of having all those nightmares and thoughts circling in your mind and paralyzing you of what could happen or what it could be, right? Because each step you take, even if you fail, guess what? It brings you one step closer to your success. But if you do nothing, then you've already failed. Think about it. Like when you're old and gray, what are you going to like when you're on your deathbed looking back on your life, you got to think like what am I going to regret? What am I going to regret not doing? What are the chances I passed up because I was too afraid to try to fail? Okay. So those are the things that you should consider trying when you're still young and able to do so. Okay. And I mean like young, like what's his name? Colonel Sanders started at 72. Okay. That's when he started. So if you're younger than that, you're still good. Okay. You're, you know, you're young and able. So believe me, every successful person has failed many times. Okay. Many times than you would care to count. No one starts out as a brilliant, all knowing, and immediately rocks at what she does, right? The important thing is that every time you fail, you learn from it, you pick yourself up, and you do it again. Okay. Your ego might take a hit, and that's usually what's happening. It's like it's not you that's scared, it's your ego that's trying to protect you, right? It's that second, it's that little voice in your head. I call that your ego, right? It's like, oh, don't do that. it's too uncomfortable, it's too this, it's too that, right? And it stops you. It's there to protect you. Like it's a biological thing. Like we're biologically wired to protect ourselves, right? So just notice it, right? Because your ego, it might take that hit, and maybe your finances too, but you can recover from those things. Like really, failure is not a bad thing. It's not as bad as a wasted life where you never like took a shot at something, right? And just sat back all your life watching those opportunities pass you by. So look at the upside and the downside of an opportunity and assess it. Okay. If the downside is far outweighed by the upside, like maybe you have 3K less from your savings versus, a life change if you go for this business, or if you lose, the weight quickly so you can run around with your kids and not waste that time, right? Like it's a no-brainer. So you have to go for it. Right? I remember, when I bought my first property, for example, um, I asked my dad, like, it was like the word everyone was like, "Oh, don't do it. It's the worst time." Interest rates were just coming down. It was like the late 90s, I guess, and everyone had like was still kind of in that mindset recovering from the 80s when all the interest rates skyrocketed and everything. And I was like, "Ooh, I want to get into real estate. I want to buy real estate." And I was dating my ex-husband for only 3 months when we decided to buy our first property together. And I said, "Oh, dad, like, I don't know if it's even going to work out with this guy. Right. But, what should I do? What should I do?" And he's like, "You know what? You're never going to know if you just don't do it." He's like, "Go to the lawyers, get your paperwork drawn up in case it doesn't work out. But if you don't do it, you're never going to know." Right. And it might end up being a bad thing. But again, you're never going to know. So I jumped in, turned out great. We ended up building like multi-million dollar real estate empire because we just everything did end up working out with us, to at least build our empire together. Um, but anyway, that never would have happened, and that led to like the most amazing life, traveling around the world. Like, but it started with that one shot, right? Where it was like super scary. Everybody around me was like, don't do it," except for my dad was like, "You'll never know if you don't. So it could go either way. You don't know." Right. But another important thing to consider is just accept the fact that your journey to success is always going to involve failure, right? Like it's inevitable, right? I succeeded at that thing, but there's other things that I haven't succeeded in, right? There's been ups and downs all the way up, I like to say. But, like just think about it when we were kids, okay, and we were trying to learn to ride a bike or whatever, you fell a lot, right? Or what about walking in the beginning? You don't remember that far back, but you're right. You look at little kids and they're up, down, up, down, up, down, trying to figure out how to walk, right? They crawled and they walk. And another thing is be kind to yourself when you're going through that journey too. Like you're learning how to walk. You don't say to a little kid like when they fall, "Oh, get up, you stupid little dummy," like anything like that. But sometimes we're really mean to ourselves when we do fail. You got to, just be like, "Okay, you're learning a new skill, you're learning a new language or whatever," right? There's going to be failure. Just be kind to yourself, learn from it, get back up and do it again, right? And do it differently. Just figure out, okay, what didn't work? Let's try a different approach. Like what did you have to do every single time, right? Like just get back up and try again because that would be the only way to learn. Like you're walking, right? But guess what? When you first started walking, you didn't go from crawling to walking and then you never fell, right? Everybody was unstable until they weren't, right? Until you could run, right? So that's what it takes to make it, right? Try again. Even if your knees are scraped and your older sister laughs at you or whatever, right? Like dive into what it is that you really want to do, with the understanding that failure is bound to happen. Okay. Don't focus on it too much because I always say too, you get what you focus on, right? So just acknowledge, okay, this happened, no big deal. Let's learn from it, keep going, right? And just make the resolve to just keep getting back up until you succeed. Okay. Maybe you have that one team member or something that keeps slacking, or you can't seem to figure out why your site keeps crashing, or you're all set on scaling your business, but then life happens to you and you get sidetracked, right? Life constantly is happening, right? Maybe you invest in a coach and you didn't get the results that you were looking for because their program was too general and not specific to who you are and who you want to attract and what you ultimately want to create. Because a lot of those, coaches or programs out there, they're just very general and then it doesn't work. Got a lot of people calling me, saying that. I'm like, well, what if it was completely customized and specific and tailored to who you are and what you want to create and who you ideally want to attract? Do you think that might work a little bit better? Because there's always that, like any business is like that, right? It's like you need that framework that's the same in every business, but it won't work unless it's like really authentic and genuine, and having those things wrapped around that framework so that it all ties together, right? And, did you marry your first boyfriend or stop dating after your first boyfriend broke your heart? Probably not, right? Like it didn't work out, and so you tried again. Like you went out and got back into the field again, right? So just own it. Like this is how the life of an entrepreneur looks. It's the only guarantee. The only guarantee is that there's going to be challenges, there's going to be failures. Okay? It's the only guarantee. So it'd be so cool if you put your name, because I'm seeing like lots of comments, but I'm not seeing your name except for Peggy. I say Peggy, but I'm seeing some other people on here. Let me know. Say hi. It's whoever. For some reason, it just says Facebook user, Facebook user. It doesn't say who you are, and I'd love to see who's on here. So anyway, there's a million and one challenges that are going to happen as an entrepreneur, and you just have to keep going and keep on mastering them, just getting it better and better, but just going for it. I was actually talking to my one of my team members today, and he's like, he wants to keep training and keep training and keep training. And I'm like, dude, like you're good. You're really, really good at what you're doing. Like, I don't think you need to be training more at this point. Like, yeah, sure, you can always get more efficient, more effective, but he wants to enroll more people. And I'm like, I feel like you need to be generating calls, right? Like if you're spending that 8 hours a day generating calls versus 8 hours a day training, like, how are you gonna enroll people if they're not calling, right? Like, the focus needs to be on generating calls if you wanna make sales, right? He wants to keep training so that long term, he's gonna be more effective, which is great too. However, you need the money to pay the bills. So where does the focus go first, right? There's got to be um a priority, right? A priority. If you can't make calls, I mean, if you can't make sales without calls getting booked, the focus needs to be on how do you get calls booked, right? You can't get better at enrolling people if you're not talking to people. So it's like you got to think about, the order of things too. Anyway, back to the things, mastering them, whatever. But the moment you decide to become a business owner, like you're already in that problem solving business. And that's what you do. That's part of your business, right? It's like the challenges are always going to be there, and you're going to be in the problem solving business now that you're an entrepreneur, no matter what it is that you do. Like I always say, once you're in business, you're in the marketing business, you're in the sales business, you need clients, right? You need people to find you, call you, and pay you. So you need those business systems to get people to do that, right? No matter what you are an expert at, right? So anyways, there's going to be several things to try as you put up this business, and many of those things are not going to work out in the beginning. So not every step on this journey is going to feel good either, right? And if you accept the fact that that's going to be the way it is from day one, then that's going to put you on the right track to success. Make sense? So, because there's so many steps. There's so many steps. There's so many pieces to being a business owner, right? It's not easy, but it doesn't have to be like what do I say? It's not easy, but it can be simple, right? There's a lot of steps that seem hard, especially if you don't have the clarity around it, then it really seems hard, right? But once you have that clarity around how to implement things or what to implement first, what to know in order to, or what, when you got clarity around what to do to get the results that you're looking for, then it's not hard, right? What's hard is not knowing and having it up in your blind spot and just not having that clarity. Then you're just like throwing stuff up on the wall all the time to see what sticks. Nothing sticks. You don't get results. And then you get frustrated, and then you get, you're just spinning your wheels, and then time goes by and you got bills to pay, right? So it's like you got to get that clarity. And where do you get clarity from? Usually other people that have done it, right? Usually, pretty much everything's been done before, so it's like you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Just find someone that can teach you. Anyway, don't overthink that. Like, don't ever think that failure is like the worst thing that could happen to you. Okay, and that if it comes, it must mean that you're on the wrong track, because you might not be on the wrong track. And what I mean is, like, let's say again, you're an expert at something, you're really good at what you do, you get great results for people, but you just don't know how to get clients, right? It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you, because I get those calls a lot from people like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I must suck. And it's like, it's not you, right? It's your business model. It's like you don't understand how to communicate the value around what you have so that other people get it. You get it because you're the expert. You've been doing it forever, right? But not everybody else gets it. And so sometimes we can get into this like really like technical speak that and everyone's glazing over, like, what the heck are you talking about? Right. But it makes total sense to you. But you got to be able to come across and have your message resonate deeply with the person that you want to pay you, right? That you want to help so that they can pay you. Make sense? So there's always going to be people who aren't going to believe you out there either. Like, there's going to be circumstances that won't work out even if you try your best, and then that resistance is going to come, and that's just how it goes, right? And then whatever you resist persists, so then you can start going into this like negative spiral, and again start thinking something's wrong with you when there's nothing wrong with you. It's just your business model is broken, right? But you might hear a lot of no's, right? Um and even some nasty stuff. Like, some people can come in and be like, in social media, projecting how they're feeling that day on you or whatever, and think you're like maybe a scam artist or something. And it's like, I'm really just genuinely trying to help people. Like, but people can project their stuff on you and say nasty stuff because there's that, wall of protection on social media and stuff. There's all those haters out there sometimes, right? And then that can lead to negative stuff in your head, right? And it just like starts going. But anyway, um, the failure is gonna happen, okay? I promise, but you don't have to let it stop you, okay? If you have grit and tenacity, if you persist, then you're gonna get where you wanna go, and you'll have that momentum to keep going no matter what. Make sense? Tell me if that's making sense in the comments here. I'm gonna check. Awesome. Great topic. My perfection issue sometimes causes me to freeze. Totally. Yes. I always say take imperfect action, because that's a big problem for a lot of people. The perfectionism, for sure. Sometimes causes you to freeze, and then probably more about fear of failure. Yeah. And some people have fear of success too. I was on a call today with someone who had fear of success, and we broke it down. I'm like, well, what are you scared of? Right? Are you scared of what if you do succeed? What's the worst thing that can happen, right? And she's like, "Oh, then I'm gonna." She's like, "I had some bad experiences with a lot of famous people in my life. I don't want to be famous." And then in her next breath, she was like, "I want to be like, I want to do talks and speaking like Brene Brown." And I'm like, "Well, wait a minute. When that's totally incongruent. You just said you didn't want to be famous and stuff like that, and that's what you were scared of, and yet you want to help people like Brene Brown, who's a famous person, right?" I'm like, "Wait a minute, what's going on here?" Said, "Well, let's dive into that. Like, what happens if you do talk to all these people and you become famous, and all these people are like, 'Oh my God, thank you so much. You've helped me so much.'" So it's like, wouldn't that feel more like fulfilling and satisfying versus um, scary or whatever. And then once we broke it down, I got her to open up and like really explore what it was, right? It disappeared. It was gone like in an instant, right? So then it just was like, okay, we got to do this. Like, I got to figure it out. I'm no longer afraid of the success part, but some people that stops them too. But what really it came down to with this particular person, and I see it a lot with a lot of people, is they get into doing like this busy work, right? Because they're just not clear on what to focus on. And for her, it's been going on for 2 years, right? She's been wanting to do this thing for 2 years. She doesn't really have the clarity around how to execute it from a business standpoint. She's amazing at what she does. She's got like 20 years of experience with what she does. She helps people, like literally saves their lives with what she's doing, getting people out of depression and trauma and stuff like that. And there's so much need for that right now too, but she just doesn't know how to set up the business systems around it, right? How could she know, right? Because she's everybody has been trained to be workers, not business owners in our society, right? So how would she know? So she's just been spinning her wheels and thinking like she's scared of the success, but really it's not that. So within 45 minutes we broke it down and she's just like, "Oh my God, this is amazing," right? Anyway, so the next important piece after accepting the certainty of the learning curve, okay, is to try and minimize the amount of failure that you'll have to go through. Okay. There's always going to be failure, but let's minimize the amount of failure. Okay. And how do you do that? Right. To mitigate that, you have to follow in the footsteps of someone who has already made it. Again, we you don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's been done before, I'm sure, right? So if you're a service-based entrepreneur and you go out there and you try to figure things out on your own by buying a bunch of books or watching a bunch of YouTube videos or talking to a bunch of different experts and you're trying to piece all these pieces together from all these different sources, that's not minimizing the possibility of failure because when you try and piece all that information from different sources, they're most likely not going to fit together. Okay. It's a waste of time, waste of money, overall waste of resources because some of the info you'll get is going to be good. Okay. Some of it's not going to be good. Some won't apply to your business at all. Right. And the problem is you won't know the difference because yes, it might be working for some people, like posting to 16 different Facebook groups daily, cold calling people, doing this, doing that, but it doesn't mean that you can just copy that strategy without knowing what else is happening behind the scenes and expect to be as successful as that other person, right? And then that doesn't even sound that sounds like terrible to me. Like I always tell people, you don't need to be posting 16 times a day or to 16 different platforms. It's like, one post a day, one platform, you're good. 2 hours a week. There's a specific strategy that works like clockwork. It's really great. And by the way, I don't recommend doing that, right? I don't recommend doing all that stuff, posting and all this stuff all the time, right? It's like it should be very strategic, very simple when your message is dialed in. It shouldn't take too long, right? So I don't recommend doing all that posting anywhere and everywhere. Okay. In the beginning, you just need to know what you don't know. Okay. As you work your way through. And then, or sorry, maybe hold on. In the beginning, you just don't know what you don't know, is what I mean. I think I'm not saying that properly. And so you're just kind of working your way through, and then you're like, like I said, pasting stuff. And then you discover that there must be more to the formula, right? I mean, you're seeing other people doing it. So why isn't it working to you, right? So there must be more to that formula than what meets the eye because it just isn't getting you the same results. And like I said, it's like building a house, I say, right? A lot of times, right? There's all these pieces to the puzzle. There's like there's all these like, what do you okay, this is what I usually say, right? Like, what do you need to follow when you're building a house? You need to follow a blueprint, right? What happens if you don't follow a blueprint when you build a house? It doesn't work, okay? So, building a business is a lot like that, right? Like, the house has a framework. You know that, right? You know that technically you have an idea of how to build a house. You could go to Home Depot right now, buy the wood, buy the nails and the hammer and the screws and the screwdriver and the drywall and maybe some bricks. I mean, I don't know, right? Like you have an idea. You know it needs a roof, right? Like you know what a house needs. You know it needs a foundation. But what happens if you did go and do that? What happens if you did go and then watched a whole bunch of YouTube videos and tried to put that house together? Like, how safe would you feel in there? Not very safe, right? And it's the same thing as building a business, right? Like, there's a framework, there's a formula to getting the right people finding you, calling you, and paying you. But just like every house is somewhat different too, like there's different layouts, there's different um decorations, there's different colors, there's different fixtures, right? Same with each business, right? There's a framework to it, but there's also who you are, your knowledge, your wisdom, your expertise, right? And that has to combine with who you ideally want to work with, because who you ideally want to work with is going to be different than who I would ideally want to work with, or any of my other clients who they would ideally want to work with. And then your overall vision of what you want your business to look like is also going to be very different than anyone else. But all those three pieces have to go hand in hand. They have to fit together and they have to fit around that frame so it actually works, just like a house, right? That layout, all those fixtures, all those things still have to fit around that frame. Very similar, right? To compare those two. Otherwise, it just doesn't work, right? And it's like baking a cake too. I say this one too. It's like you got to follow that recipe. There's a certain order that needs to happen. You can't put the icing on the cake, then put it in the oven, and then put the eggs. Doesn't work, right? You can't miss a step. Doesn't work. You have to follow the recipe step by step from A to Z in the right order, or it doesn't work. So if you're like flailing around and things aren't working for you, it's probably because you haven't been following a plan, right? It's probably because these pieces that you're getting from all these different places don't fit together. Okay. So the best thing to do really is to get mentorship from someone who has actually done it and someone whose system you like, right? Like if you're seeing them do launches and stuff like that, and they're seeing that they're taking a year before they can do the next launch, right? There's all that money that's being missed throughout that year. And then they're building up, building up, building up to that launch, right? That's one way of doing it, right? Or there's like an automated system, which is what I have, where someone sees a post and then they watch something else that's automated that, identifies them as the go-to expert that against all the competition, that weeds out the people you wouldn't want to talk to, brings in the people you would want to talk to. And it's all done on autopilot and then you can enroll them in a call within 24 to 48 hours, right? It's like four or five steps to get someone from stranger to paying client within 24 to 48 hours. I personally like that system, right? So look for someone whose system is that you like, that you would want to learn from, who has succeeded in achieving the kind of outcomes that you want, and also has helped others to get their desired outcomes. That's the person to go with, right? Because if you've never done something before and you try to do so on your own, that's a recipe for disaster, right? Or it's just going to take forever, right? And there's going to be failure after failure after failure. So mitigating the amount of failures to have is finding someone that's done it before, finding a mentor, finding someone that can help you, hire them, to cut out as much of the failure as possible. So if you don't have someone who is on the outside looking in, who sees the patterns that are preventing you from scaling your business, then it's going to be very difficult for you to take your business to that next level. Right? You following me? Because when you have a coach or a mentor, you also get to tap into a strategy that is proven. And then you get the expert support and accountability, right? That you need as she walks you through the steps towards your outcome. You need someone that can take you from A to Z, that's very systemized or very customized, very tailored, very specific to who you are and what you're looking for, right? And make sure they're not general. Make sure they're very specific. Okay. And who you want to also attract, right? Again, all those things need to go hand in hand. So, you don't have this infinite amount of resources to spend on trial and error, right? None of us has that unless you're like Pepsi or Coca-Cola, right? Then you got that infinite budget to work with, but most likely that's not you. I'm just going to check the comments really quick. That's exactly what I've been doing this past year, and I'm here now. Awesome, Dina. That's so cool. So, yeah, I mean, you owe it to yourself and to the people in your life to make the road to success as short as possible, because the more time that goes by not being set up properly to have those right people finding, calling, and paying you is the time that you could be generating that income. Right? People don't think of it that way. They're like, I'm going to do everything really for free or cheap and try and piece it all together. And then months go by, years go by, right? By not having that income, you're essentially losing it because that's income that could be going into your bank account, right? When the right people are finding you, calling you, and paying you. So accept the fact that this is going to be hard. Okay. It's not going to be easy. Okay. It can be simple, just not easy. And that there's really going to be a failure, but you owe it to yourself to make that failure as little as possible. And the best way to do that is to find a proven system that gets you from where you are now to where you want to go in the quickest amount of time possible. Without that, you're just going to make that journey so much longer, so much harder, far more difficult, and it's going to cost you a ton of revenue that you could be earning. Make sense? So if you want to calculate too, this is kind of cool. If you want to calculate exactly how much it is costing you, it has cost you, and how much it will continue to cost you by not being set up properly to get the right people finding you, calling you, and paying you consistently, I created a fun calculator where you can like plug in your specific numbers to see exactly how much it's costing you. Okay. So I'll include that in the comments or somewhere after this is over, and you can just click on it and plug in your numbers and get an idea. Okay. So I hope this has been helpful for you. Okay. Anybody have any questions? You can put it in the comments right now. You helped me realize that the hours I have spent trying to figure it out was a lot of money lost. Absolutely. Yeah, it's crazy. Like people just don't think of it like that, right? So, yeah, hopefully this has been helpful. And if you want to know more about the proven strategy that I teach my clients, just comment strategy below and I or someone from my team will get back to you with a DM. But yeah, I'm here again every Thursday, uh, 3 p.m. Pacific time. And let me just see. Yeah, my pleasure. Awesome. Looking forward to that calculator. Cool. So yeah, someone will get back to you from my team and we can set up like a free 45-minute, I call it like strategy session, breakthrough session where we can do like a deep dive into your business. I'm like a doctor, so I can I'm like the doctor of business. So I'll ask you a bunch of questions to get to like the root cause of like what's missing, what do you need, stuff like that. Why you're not getting the results that you're looking for and figure out like what's broken, right? We get clear on who your ideal client ultimately should be. We figure out what price point you should be charging, anywhere between 3,000 and 10,000 for your service. I know that sounds crazy, but it's true. We'll pinpoint around what it is. I mean, we look at specific data that we uncover throughout the program, but based on what you tell me in that 45-minute session, I can give you kind of a ballpark range of what other clients of mine or colleagues of mine are charging for similar services to yours. And based on what we uncover, I can give you the best strategy to get you from where you are now to where you want to go, whether you work with me or anybody else. And if it's a good fit to work with me, then we can discuss that. And if not, then I can point you in the direction of someone I might know that can get you to that next level. So again, just comment strategy below and I or someone from my team will get back to you with a DM and set that up for you. Thank you for being here. I hope to see you again next week. Hopefully that was helpful. And hope you enjoy that calculator link. So, yeah, I will see you next Thursday. Take care, everyone.